Part 1 of today's lesson is on the Cartesian Coordinate Plane. Back in grade school, you may have remembered using our number line to help us identify integers. And we used that number line to help us add and subtract integers. On that number line, we can identify several things. First of all, we can identify the origin. We know that 0 is our origin. That origin separates our numbers. Numbers to the right of the origin are positive numbers, and those numbers move in ascending order. Ascending means that they go up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Numbers to the left of the origin are negative, and those numbers move in descending order. Descending meaning moving down. And that number line worked very well for us to help us represent integers and how we move along the number line when adding and subtracting those integers. But realize that that number line is only one-dimensional. Today we want to introduce you to the coordinate plane. And what the coordinate plane allows us to do is that it allows us to identify two dimensions of numbers. Here's what I mean. What you see here is a number line. Actually, two number lines. One number line here that goes from right to left and left to right. And one number line here that goes up and down. The one that moves from the left to the right, the one that we dealt with when we were in grade school, is actually referenced as our x-axis. It moves from left to right. Our y-axis actually moves up and down. The y-axis is simply a reflection of the x-axis. And starting right here in our middle, where we have our origin, where the x and the y-axis meet, we have a value of x, 0, and y equal to 0. And when we use that as our basis, just like we did with our original number line, numbers to the right on the x-axis, those numbers are positive. These on the x-axis are negative. And again, they move into this descending order. This would be -1. This would be -2, -3, -4, -5, and so on. The y-axis is very similar to that, only the numbers move up and down. The numbers that move up are positive, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Down are negative, so -1, -2, -3, and so on. And as you can see, these two axes separate our information into 4 different quadrants. The prefix quad, Q-U-A-D, we know, means 4. So we want to be able to identify those quadrants. Well, here's what you do. Start in the upper right with quadrant 1, and then work in a counterclockwise fashion. So if we go counterclockwise, there would be 2, 3, and quadrant 4 is the bottom right. Understand that every single position within our coordinate plane has two values. Just like we did for the origin, it has a value for x and a value for y. The value for x always comes first, and it is referred to as the abscissa. Please remember that again, it always comes first. Second is our value for y, so x comma y, and that second value is called the ordinate. It's our y coordinate. But again, please remember, x always comes first, y always comes second. So we can point to any position. For instance, we can point to that position within our coordinate plane, and it has both an x value, so if we want to count, 1, 2, 3, 4, it has a x value of -5, and a y value of 1, 2, 3. So the ordered pair that represents this point is negative 5, 3. Now, what I'd like for you to do is pause the video for a second and plot those 3 ordered pairs. Okay, hopefully you have plotted those 3 ordered pairs, and they look like this. The point 3, 2 means 3 on the x-axis and 2 on the y-axis, so that would be right here, where x has a value of 3 and y has a value of 2. Negative 2, 3 would be right here. It has an x value of negative 2 and a y value of 3. And then finally, negative 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, would go right there. Negative 3, 2. And actually, I just realized this one is just a little high. Again, you got to be careful when you're counting. Negative 2, 3 would be right there. I actually put it at 4. My apologies. But please understand that each point on our coordinate plane has 2 values that are associated with it. An x value and a y value. And that brings me to 2 important things for you to note. Number 1, please note that each ordered pair corresponds to exactly 1 point on the coordinate plane. And secondly, exactly each point on the coordinate plane corresponds to 1 ordered pair. So what we're saying there is each point has a specific ordered pair that's associated with it, and that never ever changes. Now I'd like you to give a few more things a try. First of all, go ahead and look at what I've done here. On my coordinate plane, I've identified A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. What I'd like for you to do is list the ordered pair that goes with each of those points. Secondly, I would like for you to draw a coordinate plane in your notebook and then graph the following 7 points. Once you are finished with that, you'll then be ready to go on to part 2 of the video, Relations and Functions.